I talked with a real estate agent just the other day and heard them complaining there is just too much for sale in Cape Coral. And I get it. You drive down Del Prado or Chiquita or Burnt Store Road and you're counting them, right? Three for sale signs on this street, two more on the next one, then you've got a few empty lots sitting around. And somewhere around that fourth or fifth sign, you started doing the math in your head about whether something is actually wrong in this city or not. And you're not imagining it. Those signs are real. I drive by them too, just like every other real estate agent. And the internet or a quick search has already told you what this means. People are fleeing Cape Coral. The insurance market down here has just completely broken us. The hurricanes, let's not even talk about that. And the Wall Street Journal ran a headline calling this the worst housing market in America. You can go read any Facebook thread right now about the Cape Coral real estate market, and you're going to find at least 100 comments all landing on the same conclusion. Nothing is selling here. But here's the thing, there are two things that are true right now, and I have never once seen anybody put them in the same sentence. The amount of signs that you counted are real. And single family supply in Cape Coral right now sits at 4.8 months, which is tighter than even a balanced market. Not looser, tighter. So both of these are true at the same time. And the reason that feels impossible is that almost nobody has actually counted what they are looking at. Now, before I go one step further, I'm going to give away the part most agents in this city would bury at minute 19. The median closed price in Cape Coral over the last 6 months is $385,000. The peak was $465,000 in April of 2022. That is down 17%. So that is real. This downturn did happen. And anyone trying to tell you something otherwise is definitely trying to sell you something. Prices corrected, we know that, but supply did not collapse. Those are two completely different questions, and the entire confusion in this city comes from people answering the first one when you actually ask the second one. So hi, I'm Jamie Kolev, and I sell real estate here, which means you should be a little skeptical of me telling you everything is fine. I get it. I would rather you check my work than take my word. So every number in this video came out of the MLS or out of the Lee County Property Appraiser's 2026 tax roll this week, the time I'm filming it. This is not a news story about a news story. So we're gonna cover 6 things in this video today. We're gonna talk about what those empty lots actually are and why they're not what you think. We're going to talk about why the month that you visited decided your entire opinion of this market. We're going to talk hurricane math, which is off by more than you probably believe it is, what the tax bill and that sewer assessment that we've talked about in other videos really cost, because those two complaints are real and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. And then at the very end, I'm going to show you how to actually run this same check on any city in Florida yourself, so you never have to trust a real estate agent and their word on this ever again, including myself. All right, so let's start off with those empty lots, because they are the single biggest reason this city looks the way that it does. As of 2026's preliminary tax roll, there are 27,035 vacant residential lots inside Cape Coral city limits. 27,000. That is 26% of every residential parcel in this entire city sitting as raw land. Now hold that number next to the one that everybody argues about. There are 2,194 single-family homes actively for sale in Cape Coral right now. 27,000 empty lots, 2,000 homes for sale. There are 12 empty lots in this city for every single house that's on the market. But here's what this does to you when you drive. You come down a street and you pass a house with a sign in the front yard, then an empty lot, then a house with scaffolding and a dumpster in the driveway, then 2 more homes, then another empty lot. Your brain files all 3 of those things as for sale when 2 of them are not. That empty lot has probably been sitting empty since the Eisenhower administration. It's not new. Nothing happened to it. Nobody left it. And that house going up with the dumpster out front, in most cities, that is a builder putting up a spec inventory. However, here, a huge amount of the time, that is a person building their own home on a lot that they bought years ago. That is not supply hitting the market. That is just a future neighbor. And the reason for this goes all the way back to 1957. The Gulf American Land Corporation did not build Cape Coral and then sell the houses. They platted the land, cut the canals, and sold the lots. Mail order, sight unseen, out of a brochure. They sold them to far more people than were ever going to actually show up and build. So Cape Coral has looked oversupplied for 69 years. And not because something went wrong, it's just because that is the business model that this city was built on. You want to see how extreme this still is? If we head up to North Cape Coral, where a lot of these empty lots are, and we talk about North 3, which is the utilities area that's currently in design, you've heard me talk about that in my UEP videos. This covers about 3 square miles. Now, roughly 1,900 of those parcels are improved. But guess how many unimproved parcels it has? 3,200. There is more empty land in that section of the city than there are houses. So the visual evidence that you trusted out your windshield is a 1950s land sale. It's not a 2026 market signal. So that explains the empty space, but it doesn't explain why the signs themselves seem to bunch up. And that one comes down to something much simpler. What month were you here? Now, let me give you 2 months out of the same city 5 months apart. January of 2026, there were 903 new single-family listings that hit the market in Cape Coral. 303 homes closed, quite the difference. In June of 2026, 621 new listings hit the market. 521 of those closed. Same city, same year. And if you stood on the same street corner in January and again in June, you would swear you were looking at 2 different markets. But now here is something that nobody explains about that January number, and it is not distress. January is when sellers in this city are supposed to list. The holidays are over, but the snowbirds are down here and kind of settled in. They're in that sweet spot to buy. They've got 3 solid months on the ground to look, and they are ready to write offers. So it's a strategy to have your listing come out in January to meet the buyers who are physically here. It's not panic. That is sellers doing exactly the right thing at exactly the right time. I do the same thing with my own listings, and so does most of the other agents in this city that know what they're doing. But sit with the irony here for a second, because this is the part that just gets me every time. The people driving around asking why there's so many houses for sale in Cape Coral are very often the snowbirds who came down here for the season. Those listings exist because they are here. They are the buyer pool. They are the entire reason a seller picked January in the first place. And then they head up north in March or April before those homes close in May and June. So they've watched every single listing go up, but they've missed every single one of them selling. And if your entire impression of this market was formed between January and March, you did not see the market. You saw the inventory line without ever seeing the sales line. So this one is all about timing. But there is one explanation that shows up in every one of these threads that has nothing to do with timing at all, and it is off by more than any claim I have ever fact-checked. This is a real comment off a real thread about this exact question. Somebody asked why so many homes are for sale in Cape Coral, and one of the top answers was, and I quote, "because you have to rebuild it twice a year, every time a major hurricane comes through." 4 likes on that. 4 likes. Now, 2 hurricanes have made landfall in Lee County since the year 2000. Charlie in 2024 and Ian in 2022. That is 1 every 13 years. Now, if you widen that out as far as you honestly can, it does not get better for that argument. You can count every named storm that made landfall anywhere on the southwest Florida coast, all of Charlotte, Lee, Collier, and there's 5 events in 26 years. And I am going to be fair here because I want you to trust the rest of this video. Landfall it's a narrow way to count hurricanes because Irma technically came ashore in Collier County in 2017, but the eye wall crossed Lee and it did real damage here. So the landfall number undercounts what people have actually lived through. That is a legitimate criticism of my own stat here, but twice a year, that claim is off by roughly a factor of 50, and it got likes. Now, Two of the complaints in those threads are real costs, actual money out of your pocket, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. So let's do the math here on these. Now for context, Cape Coral's city operating millage rate in the fiscal year of 2021 was 6.375. For the fiscal year of 2026, it's 5.1471. That is a 19% cut in the rate over 5 years. So when somebody tells you that the city keeps raising taxes, the rate actually went down. What went up was the assessed value. Those are not the same thing, and the difference matters enormously for what you are about to pay. And here's one thing that nobody in the entire comment section mentioned, not even once. Of the 90,733 single-family parcels in Cape Coral, 31,719 of them carry no homestead exemption. That is roughly 1 in 3. No homestead means no exemption and no Save Our Homes cap. Your assessed value climbs with the market with nothing holding it down. So you've got a second homeowner or an out-of-state investor opening a tax bill that looks nothing like their neighbors. And that neighbor has been homesteaded and capped since 2012. Same street, same house, but wildly different bill. And I've seen this with my neighbors. That is not the city raising your taxes. That is the exemption that you don't have. The other one is the utilities extension assessment. And this one is real money, and I am not going to soften it here. If you haven't watched my previous videos on the utility extension program, this is the program that is taking water, sewer, and irrigation up to areas that are still on well and septic. Now, in the most recent area that they did in North Cape Coral, a standard 10,000 square foot lot cost $32,288. Now, financed over 30 years, that lands at about $3,385 a year on your tax bill. Now, in that Facebook thread about the homes for sale, one person said 15 to 20,000 over 10 years, and another said 50,000 plus over 20. They both stated it as fact, and let's be honest, they're both wrong, and here's why. They were describing two different areas of the city, and neither of them knew it. That is the whole thing about this assessment. It's not a surprise. It's disclosed, it's financeable, it is specific to your area, and you can know the exact number before you ever write an offer, if it's already been assessed. But notice what every single one of these is. They are cost questions. Not one of them is a supply question. A high tax bill explains why a person might decide to sell, but it does not explain why the sold sign never shows up in the yard. Those are two different videos, and everybody keeps mashing them into one. And when it comes to your taxes, your bill in this city depends almost entirely on whether you are homesteaded and when you bought, which is why your neighbor's number tells you nothing about yours. I built a free simulator that runs your actual numbers if you're interested. It's at thekolevgroup.com/tax. The link is in the description, and it just takes about 60 seconds. All right, now this brings us to the actual claim underneath all of this. Not that homes are listed, everybody can see homes are listed, but the claim is that nothing is selling. So let me give you some context of the real estate market right now in Cape Coral. Median days on market for Cape Coral single-family homes that actually closed in the last 6 months, 47 days. Median days on market for what is sitting active right now, 80 days. 47 and 80, hold on to both of those for just a second, all right? Now, 1,934 single-family homes closed in Cape Coral in the last 120 days. That is roughly 16 homes a day, every day, including weekends and holidays, in a city that people keep telling you is frozen. And that gap between 47 and 80 is not two different markets. It is one market with a pricing problem. Because homes priced to what this market is today go in about 7 weeks. But homes priced to April of 2022 sit there and become part of the scenery. The list to sell ratio actually backs this up. In February of this year, sellers were getting 97.2% of asking, and by June it was 98.1%. That number has climbed every month this spring, and sellers are getting more of their asking price as the year goes on, not less. So why does nothing is selling feel so obviously true when you drive around? Because the only listings you'll ever see twice are the ones that don't move. The house that sold in 6 weeks, you passed once, you never registered it, and now it's gone. The one that's been sitting since March with the faded sign and the grass getting too long that you've passed 40 times, it has become a landmark for you. And your memory of this market is built almost entirely out of the houses that failed to sell. That is not a market observation, though. That is survivorship biased, one street at a time. So supply is not what you think, and things are absolutely selling, which leaves the one question that actually matters. Is inventory in this city growing or is it shrinking? Two numbers, and those are going to end the argument. From July 2025 to July 2026, there were 8,150 new listings and 5,405 closed sales. So that means in the last year, new listings have been down 13.9%, but closed sales are up 8%. So there's fewer people listing and more people buying for a full year straight. That is what gets us to 4.8 months of single family supply against a balanced benchmark of 5 to 6 months. We are not in oversupply. We are slightly tighter than an actual balanced market right now. And then there's this number that I actually want you to remember because it surprised me. 2,194 homes are for sale right now in Cape Coral. That is out of 90,733 single-family parcels in this city. So 2.4%, that is what we have for sale. 97.5% of Cape Coral is not for sale. And this is not even a Cape Coral story. Cape Coral holds 32% of Lee County's single-family homes and 36% of the county's active listings. We are listing at almost exactly our share. So if it's not an exodus, what is it? Well, it's death, it's divorce, it's empty nesters downsizing and growing families upgrading. It's job transfers, somebody retiring closer to the grandkids, a landlord cashing out, a couple splitting up. In a city of 236,000 people, 2.4% of homes being for sale is not a crisis. It is what normal life looks like when you actually count it. The boring answer is sadly the true one. It just doesn't get any likes. All right, so let's put this all back together. Those empty lots are not listings. They've been just sitting empty since 1957, and they run 12-1 against the homes actually for sale. February is not June, so if you formed your opinion during snowbird season, you've watched the inventory go up and left before you could watch it sell. 2 hurricanes, not to a year. The tax bill and the assessment are real costs, but cost is not a supply. 47 days. Not never. And listings are down 14% while sales are up by 8%. Now you came into this video because you saw something with your own eyes and you could not tell whether it meant what everybody says it meant. That is a completely reasonable place to be. Your eyes were not lying to you. But the conclusion was just wrong. So here is what I actually want to take with you. And this is not a number, it's the method. Because a number goes stale, but a method does not. Any city in Florida, any of them, 3 steps. So number 1, you're going to go to any listing portal, you can use Zillow, and get the count of active single-family homes for sale in that city. Number 2, you are going to go to the county property appraiser website. You're going to find the tax roll recap, and you are going to get the count of single-family parcels. Then we're just going to do some math. Because step number 3, divide the first number by the second. If you land somewhere around 2 or 3%, that city is fine, no matter how many signs you count. If you land at 8 or 10%, now you have found something real, and you should be asking hard questions. So run this on Cape Coral. Run it on the city you are thinking about leaving. Run it on wherever you are moving to next. You never have to ask, how's the market, and take the real estate agent's word for it ever again, including mine. Now, if you are thinking about moving here, I've put everything that you need to know about this city in a free relocation guide. You can find it on our website at thekolevgroup.com/guide or at the link in the description below. And I'll end this where I started because I would rather you trust me later than believe me today. Prices in Cape Coral corrected about 17% off the 2022 peak. That is real, but supply did not. So if somebody tells you those are the same story, they have not looked into the numbers. I'm Jamie Kolev with the Kolev Group, and we'll see you in the next one.